5%, so the water bill goes up. And now I'll pay an extra $55 a month besides my own house for my rental properties. Okay, I'm just trying to budget things because as Rick said, we landlords, at least those of us who have decent properties, we have decent tenants and we can't afford to raise the rents because we'll lose those decent tenants. So here's my question.
Okay.
What else do I have to think about when I budget? I read somewhere that either real estate taxes or personal property taxes are going up, and if that's true,
No, okay.
what percentage?
Okay,
Well, what other fees? How much is inspection gonna go, from $70 to what?
that part I don't know yet. It hasn't, I don't know.
Okay, so what other fees do I, as a landlord and a homeowner, expect if I'm gonna try to make a budget for my money?
I would look at this as a utility, and pass the, I would let my tenants pay for trash and
Not gonna happen.
I
Not
would.
if you've got good tenants.
No, that would never work.
I would. I mean, you asked me, but
Maybe when we
It would never
flip
work.
them to the next set, but right now with this recession, the way it is, we can't.
But why- I
Rents are
mean-
getting lowered
Not
rather
even
than
enough.
yeah,
raised.
I would talk to them about it at least. You know, why not talk to them about it? It's the fair thing to do. What if they're already paying for single stream recycling?
Well, but my only question is, what else is coming down the pipe
The
that I
only
need to
thing
know
that's
about?
coming down is, okay, if we lose the earnings tax.
That
Okay.
that was just
Yeah.
wrong.
I know, but it's a reality. We're gonna vote on the earnings tax in November.
Earnings tax.
If they, you know,
Petitions
if
are-
we lose, in other words, if we lose in November, then every 5 years, we're gonna vote as a city to retain the earnings tax.
And the state of Missouri has to vote too, or is that just for
The
November?
whole state is voting in November, okay, to repeal the earnings tax and to not allow earnings tax for other municipalities that don't have the authority to do an earnings tax anyway, like Cole County. And this is basically because there is somebody who is pushing this. He thinks that it'll help our economy and the state of Missouri to grow, to repeal our income tax and then our earnings tax in Kansas City and St. Louis. So if and only then, as an alternative, if we vote it down in April, and you know, there isn't anyone who supports increasing real estate taxes as a substitute. There really isn't. I mean, it's just not, they would increase by 47% as a substitute, and that is not a viable alternative.
I hope that the city gets that message out.
Well, we're going to try to. We've met with our CGA, and I mean, we're trying to talk to our partners, you know, our economic development partners, on how critical this is to stability and to being able to deliver quality service. And it really isn't fair in a way. I mean, we're the venue, you know, for the whole region, and when there's a VP fair, our police and firemen, they cover all the major venues downtown. And there's, you know, we need something in place to help defray that cost. You know, I do think that there is more talk about regionalism and looking at a regional police and fire, because it would only make sense. We are one region. There's a huge disparity in salaries. A fireman out in the county makes $127,000 versus our average salary for a fireman of $57,000. Huge disparity in wages. And the work is here. We have all the equipment. We have the best fire department in the region. We have the best police department in the region. And, you know, that is coming from, you know, the county executive. So, you know,
I
Rich.
think the other thing that's got people worked up, in the last 10 years, the population of St. Louis increased 2%. In the last 10 years, spending increased 38%. And, you know, even with almost zero inflation, well, I'm not sure anybody in this room, I didn't go from, you know, 10 years ago, 38%. And then we hear, well, we can't cut the budget. That's 38% increase.
Well, we did cut the budget by
But
170
everybody says, well,
positions.
you can't-
78% of the budget are salaries.
But now they say
So-
they can't cut it anymore. Well, you know, I refuse to think there's nothing in there we can't cut out.
Well, there was, but we can't talk about that now, and it wasn't
Well, we
enough.
should be-
It
we
wasn't
should
like
be
$1
talking
million.
about
They wanted to get rid of the communications division, get rid of Channel 10. That's $1 million. That was a proposal. Do you care? I mean, I think it's important that you're able to sit in and watch the different board meetings and that type of thing.
Who
and,
does?
you know,
Anybody listen to that?
You know, but that's something that we'll talk about next year.
Well, maybe we should
getting
have
rid
been
of.
asked about that before we got stuck with the 11 hours.
Well, you know what, I think this is something that is fair. I think the trash fee is fair because the rest of the region's doing it. You know, there was a lot of tension around getting rid of Channel 10. We may still get rid of Channel 10 at this point because of the pension situation. And then there's me, I'm like, well, if we fix the pension situation, we wouldn't be running a deficit, you know, but we don't have control over the situation. So you need to talk to Mike Colonna, you know, and Senator Cavaney, if we could modify the systems fairly, because you get to keep everything that you've accrued up till now, you know, maintain a defined benefit, but get rid of these pension-rich sick leave buyback, it would help us to better afford the pensions as a defined benefit. But, you know, I don't have that kind of power to change that.
This is a question I emailed to Lewis Reed 6 months ago, never heard from him. And Local Harvest pays for blue dumpsters that they have, it's a service. But they're the only business I know of on Morganford that pays for blue dumpsters so they can put all their recycling in. Can there be a tax credit for small businesses? When I talked to Patrick, he said it costs them $200 a month. They have a blue dumpster at both of their locations. So if more businesses, which generate a huge volume of trash, could get a tax credit, maybe they would be inclined. And I know they use a private service, but I don't see blue bins anywhere.
That would be, I don't know if there's a state tax credit for businesses using blue dumpsters.
That would be state.
But here, yeah, a tax credit would be.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. But Tower Grove South, or actually, what is the name? I'm blanking on the name. Local Harvest. Sorry, could partner with the businesses on South Grand. They're going green, and they're about to initiate. So they're trying to work cooperatively with other business districts to defray the cost of recycling. So we could connect Local Harvest with Rachel Witt, who is the executive director of the South Grand City.
That is excellent.
Yeah, on and that's something we're trying to create a greener district on South Grand.
Yeah, okay. Getting back to the recycles, is there still going to be private pickup like they do now every Friday? Would that be working against us or how?
Right, until we drop the blue dumpsters, you're going to get 2 times a week solid waste, 1 time a week yard waste, and 1 time a month bulk. So when they drop the blue dumpsters, then you'll have 1 time a week recycling pickup and 1 time a week solid waste.
And yard waste, right?
It's 11 a month,
Paid every 3 months on the water bill.
correct.
And then the water bills are going,
Yeah, let's get to that. Let's talk about the water department. The water department has the water division basically isn't generating enough revenue. Actually is at a point where they're having a problem with their operating expenses. And part of the problem are revenues are flat or a lot lower than they were last year. And then the rising cost of chemicals. And then they have some capital investments that they have to make. So they really needed a 17% increase. But we went with a 12% increase. So in order, even 12% isn't enough to get them to a point where they can cover their bonds, make the capital investments that they need to make. The increases also, they approved increases for the water that we sell, you know, at cost, not at cost, but to the surrounding communities. So they basically increased their rates there. They furloughed employees this year, they've eliminated 19 positions.